My name is Eva Fyrberg. I work within advisory at KPMG International, and I'm also the head of our global alliance with Ericsson, which aim to realize business value from 5G. So I worked quite a lot with connected factories in terms of 5G, and today we're going to broaden that perspective and talk about connected cities. So that's quite a vast area, of course. So the difference between a factory and a city, what is that really? Can we utilize anything that we've learned from fairly mature smart factories to cities? I would say yes, and we're going to come back to that. But what's truly amazing with the city perspective is the people, because that is something that really differs, of course. And for me, being a management consultant, I love business cases. I love seeing the value of things. And in this case, we get to see how we can include the citizen value in the business case together with the other parameters. So please join me for a short tour on smart cities. Right, so what do we mean with smart cities? Not all of us can start from scratch, like the impressive example of Neom, but for simplicity today, I have chosen the definition of where you simply meet a citizen need by a digital solution. And I think the time has come for this. We've talked about it for many years, but it's now actually starting to happening. And why now? I think there are two answers to that. Firstly, it's the pandemic that has completely changed our behaviors. We are getting used to, it started with COVID apps where we booked our testing, our vaccinations, but it encouraged us to be open to digital healthcare in a completely new way. And we also see that we're getting used to the changes in how we divide work and our home life. So that's one aspect. The other is that we see a shift from mass production to mass customization. And that's not something completely new. We've seen this for quite some time, that we're used to tailoring our new car from the factory. We want it to be specific to our needs and preferences. We also want to tailor our sneakers. I want them to be a specific brand with a logo on the side and in a specific color. And I want it to be delivered to me without any effort from my side. So I trust the ecosystem that my sneakers provider has set up. I know that I will get my sneakers and I will not have to do anything except for ordering it. And we have come to expect the same thing from the services that we are provided by the city. We will expect nothing less going forward. So, how do we get there? Of course, the starting point will differ, and there are different prerequisites in different cities. Your culture, your financial, your politics will of course influence what you can and cannot do and in what pace. But there are some common traits, and you can see a few examples here. But the key thing around them is that they need to be connected. They cannot work in silo. If you look at data, you have to look at data jointly with how that impacts the citizen need. And that's also actually one of the parts that makes us define digitalization as a bigger term, that it is a flow and it is not siloed by how we are organized. So, at KPMG, we actually have a framework that is called Connected Enterprise, which we use for digitalization, and we also use it then to provide advisory on smart cities. Research has shown that digital leaders, they excel in these 8 key themes that you see here on the slide. Today, we're going to talk about 3 of them, and that's going to be experience centricity by design, innovative products and services, and insights-driven strategies and actions. Starting with experience centricity by design, we can start by saying that traditionally the public sector is much poorer at providing a high quality customer experience than the private sector. And this doesn't have to be a problem at all, because we can utilize the learning from the private sector in the public space, because we see them interact much more frequently now, and we see partnerships making this possible. So there is a big shift here where we, as part of creating these new cities, need to look at citizens as customers and treat them similarly as you treat customers. So if I have a need as a citizen, it could be a life event that has happened to me. Perhaps I had a new baby, or I moved to a different country and I need a work permit. Any big life event, it will cause me to have to make at least 5 phone calls to different authorities. I have to wait in line, I have to get annoyed, and then I have to explain my errands over and over again. I would never accept that if it was a service that I had ordered from a private company. So I will expect nothing less than that this is seamlessly taken care of behind the scenes, also in the public sector going forward. So I have a need, and I make the order, and it can be delivered to me. So how do we actually know the needs of the citizens? There are so many citizens, right? We see a lot of good initiatives in this area, where there are numerous digital initiatives, where an opportunity for dialogue is provided to the citizens. There are many examples. The Smart London platform, they enable citizens to instantly tell the government or a specific authority how they find things happening in the city being handled. But there is also more long-term solutions where both Barcelona and Reykjavik are doing great things with allowing citizens to see budget priorities and make their voice heard in terms of what should be the priorities going forward. So that is around actually identifying the need and sometimes the problems that we have in a city. But the next step is very closely linked to that, and that is how you design the solution to it. So now we start to talk about innovation. And we talked about innovation for quite some time, and again, perhaps it's not commonly used in a government or a city perspective, but it's easy to amend that, because when we are able to take the experiences that the private sector have and utilize partnerships, we're in a very good place to harvest on that. And daring to share and be willing to collaborate is one of the key aspects of innovation. We see it happening all the time, both between governmental bodies, between authorities, between different cities, but also between governments and private companies. One example is the infrastructure for electronic vehicles, which is often built as a cooperation between societies and the car manufacturers. Second point here is that profit is not the end goal. Well, yes, it has to be economically feasible, even though it's a city, but it is not the only metric that we have to look upon. We have to evaluate both the business case, but we also, as I started to say, have to take into consideration the society, the citizen value of what we're doing, and not least the technology aspect. So adding the 3 perspectives of the citizen, business and technology, that will bring a new way of thinking that can actually create a very many new things. And as in all innovation, we encourage the testing and trial, do a proof of concept, but when you do that, don't only look at how the technology works, but also look on the other factor. How will this impact the life of the citizen, and how will it impact the long-term plan for the city. Technology is, of course, a core element of innovation, and sometimes it could even be a means in itself to encourage new technology. It might be small, but instead of doing things the way we have, we continue to grow by using new technology, and that raises the curiosity not only in the projects themselves, but also in the citizen mindset. Lastly on this slide, we have a topic on talent, and that is of course something that everyone struggles with. We have to learn new things, we have to attract the right talent and the right competencies. Partnering is one way of doing that, but we also see a very close by example here in Saudi Arabia, the Giga projects, where both skills and technologies have been drawn from across the globe, and this in turn, it combines the competences, and it's actually in the mix that where we can see new things and we can make new discoveries. Coming into insight-driven actions, and this is of course about data, but data and insights are not the same thing. So it is what we do with data that is the core thing. We have to treat it as intelligence, and data in itself is just data. There will be so much data going forward. New communication technologies such as 5G, they enable us to have sensors with a higher density than we've ever seen before. And this is great, but we have to learn how to interpret that data and utilize it in a good way. And we see a lot of things that cities can do when they read the data rightly. Kuala Lumpur, for example, they're using insights to have predictive disaster management, something to make their citizens feel safe. We see optimization of power consumption when you can read how power is actually utilized and what is happening with it. We also see planning of public transport and planning of healthcare, because it is possible to track behaviors and see what will happen. And all these good things, it's very important for cities and for governments and for all of us to communicate that they are based on data, because there is still hesitant among citizens to share data. And if we are able to communicate all the good things that we can create based on those insights, it's very valuable. And as an example, in the US, there's only 44% actually trusting how their data is used. So we have a great improvement potential here, and we can do something with that jointly to make people want to share their data. So, in summary, I think it has a lot of similarities with the factory that I'm used to, but we can bring it to something bigger for the city. We need to know the customers, and the customers, of course, being the citizens. We have to utilize our insights. We have to make people trust the data, so we get a lot of data and we can read it the right way. And also, we have to collaborate to enable innovation. When we do this, this can truly enable a citizen-centric smart city where everyone can speak their mind in dialogue, and we can get both data, feedback, ideas, but also criticism, and all of those are equally important, because that is what can create a diverse society going forward. All of us in here and at LEAP, we will in one way or another be part of the smart city development going forward. And we need to start, we need to try, and of course we need to listen to be able to play this right. And for me, I think the key takeaway is to include citizen satisfaction in all the business cases going forward. Thank you for listening.